All right, one of the best games of the weekend, I think it is at least. I know that most people will look at the spread and say, well, it's going to be a landslide. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but anytime you see a team like Tennessee with a historically great offense going on the road into what is a team Super Bowl, at least for this week, then it's a game that feels like it's absolute must-watch television. Tennessee has been a team over the course of their history that has been terrific as a top 5 team against unranked foes. They have last lost to an unranked team as a top 5 team back in 99. So it's been more than 20 years since Tennessee has lost as a top 5 team to an unranked team. They are 61-6 all time. I think it'd be easy for me to tell you all the reasons why I like Tennessee in this game. I think I could go through what we've seen from Hendon Hooker as he is in quest to potentially win Tennessee's first Heisman Trophy. We know that their wide receiver, Jalen Hyatt, has been ridiculous. He might be in the driver's seat to win the Biletnikoff this year. He's already shattered the 15 total touchdowns for Tennessee receivers so far, but he's probably going to, whether it be this week or next, or bowl game or whenever, playoffs, who knows? He's probably going to shatter the record books when it comes to total yardage as well. He's not that far behind Robert Meacham, who currently is the single-season record holder at Tennessee. He had nearly 1,300 yards back in 2006. So if you look at what this offense is, how the defense is played, what Spencer Rattler has or hasn't been for South Carolina this year, he's been a bit of a turnover machine, and the fact that they could be without Marshawn Lloyd. Once again, he missed last week against Florida, and he was kind of the catalyst there as really the offense had that 4-game winning streak. He was averaging 113 yards a game. So we know just how important he was. For whatever reason, sidelined for this one, it could be a problem. But let me just tell you, I think the things that I'd be paying close attention to if I'm both a South Carolina fan and a Tennessee fan, because these are the things that could potentially disrupt what might be a one-sided affair on Saturday evening. There's 3 ways that I think South Carolina can potentially win the game. All right. And it's really kind of at Tennessee's doing, if you will. It starts with South Carolina must pressure Hendon Hooker. Absolutely have to pressure him. Because if you look at what happened, really, the first 8 games of the year for Tennessee, Hendon Hooker got sacked 12 times. It's pretty good, right? About 1.5 a game. Pretty good spot to be in. Sack percentage on dropbacks, just 5%. So you're getting sacked once out of every 20 times you drop back. Solid numbers. Very, very solid numbers for a unit that does have some young pieces, but man, they've played well, really well this year against quality pass rushing teams. And by the way, the first 8 opponents, not like they all stunk. Like, you had some good pass rushers that you saw in the first 8 weeks of the season. You saw Harold Perkins. You saw B.J. Ojolari. You saw Will Anderson. And yet in the first 8 games, that offensive line and the passing attack stayed in rhythm, and they didn't allow their quarterback to get touched. The pressure percentage was just 15%, and the blitz percentage, people were ramping it up, but not as much as they have been lately. That was around 1 out of every 3 snaps, 32%. So if you look at what's happened the last 2 games, he's been sacked 10 times. Okay, 12 times in the first 8, 10 times in the last 2. The sack percentage is now up to 12% from 5% before. And then if you look at just how often teams are blitzing him, it's definitely been a stark difference. They're now blitzing him 58% of the time when compared to 32% just a couple weeks ago. I think that's the big thing. Get pressure on Hendon Hooker. If Tennessee's offensive line can protect, they should be in good shape. Number 2, turnovers are massive for South Carolina. They come in having committed the worst turnover rate in the SEC, 23 turnovers this season, which is tied for the second most in the FBS. All right, that doesn't bode well, by the way, because you're going against a Tennessee team that is tied for the SEC lead with 19 takeaways. So you have a team that turns it over a ton against a team that does a great job in forcing turnovers. And if you look at the turnover battle for South Carolina, it's been a huge indicator as to whether or not they win or lose. In victories this year, South Carolina, +3 turnover margin. In defeats, they have a -10 turnover margin. So you look at it, I think it's going to be tough sledding, of course, but if they want a chance to win the game and pull off what would be a shocker, South Carolina absolutely has to win the turnover margin. If you look at Hendon Hooker, man, 8 games this year with multiple touchdowns passing, but 0 interceptions. 8 games, multiple touchdowns passing, 0 interceptions. That's tied with Drake May as the lead for the FBS. And then finally, here's the last little piece that you might want to watch out for if you're Tennessee and or if you're South Carolina. You must win the special team battle if you're South Carolina. The third phase, not something that we spend a ton of time on here at Always College Football, but South Carolina has blocked 10 kicks, 8 punts, and 2 field goals. That's tied for the most in the FBS dating back to last year. Old Dominion is the other team that's blocked 10. It's dating back to last year, the beginning of the Shane Beamer era. South Carolina ranks first in the FBS in special teams efficiency, and I'm telling you, they're also one of 6 teams that has yet to miss a field goal. Now, if you're settling for field goals against Tennessee, God help you. It's probably not going to be the path to victory, but either way, if you can flip the field, you can get your hands on a kick, that can potentially give your offense the short field, and then you might be able to ultimately pull off a surprise and steal a possession, what have you. So those are the 3 ways that South Carolina could make it difficult for Tennessee. They must pressure Hendon Hooker, they must win the turnover battle, and they must make a couple key plays on special teams. And if they don't do any of the 3, or if they do only 2 of the 3, I think Tennessee wins big on the road in Columbia, South Carolina.